News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I am Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio because Alan ran away.
No, we don't know where he's at.
And I'm Maximilian. And Brandon, just for you, I want to wish you a very happy National Pokemon Day.
Dude,
Wait a
wait.
minute.
Oh my! Why am I in the studio? I should be playing.
How do we coordinate
it's
this?
belated.
Yeah.
We celebrated it this week, so it's not today, but
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
but it's a Saturday, Max. I got to get out there and catch them all.
you do got to catch them all.
Wow, that's weird. Because, Alan warned us about 3 weeks ago that he couldn't make it this Saturday. Brandon was good enough to sit in with us. And how about that? How fortuitous.
It's serendipitous.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think he set this up.
Pokemon Day is probably a big deal, so I'm sure people are going to have opinions about that. So if you do have opinions or if you want to tell us how you're celebrating, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. And boy, if you are on social media, it is a great day to scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Pretty epic posts up there, Brandon.
I was reading that earlier this morning, and I will say that it pulled at every heartstring I have left.
Yeah. I mean, we've got, so here's what we, naturally we have our must-have item of the week. We have our great moments in building history, which we'll discuss in a minute. But also, we had to say goodbye to a legend, and so we more or less posted the obituary.
Right.
On and here at Tool Talk Radio, we don't mourn the fallen; we celebrate their legacy. That's what we're all about. So
I will guarantee you mourned the fallen yesterday, because I'm sure it happened mid-job.
Well, don't give it away, Brandon. But yeah, we're gonna discuss that. And if you want to see what this is all about, scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. But as we said, Brandon, in your honor, and also let's face it, since Alan's not around for this week's Great Moments in Building History, we're basically going to consider a fictional structure, but it's a structure everyone knows,
Right.
which is the first Death Star from Star Wars. And I can already, see what does that have to do with home improvement? Oh, there's a lot of lessons you can learn. This mega weapon can teach us a lot about
true.
home design.
It genuinely can. And I know they're all rolling their eyes right now listening to the radio going, well, how are they going to make this, happen? Trust us, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there's some good metaphor here, and also just some good straight up design lessons you can learn. It's a pretty awful machine that they created, but hey, I mean, you got to learn from history.
It's true. And even if that history is fictional, which I don't know if any of you really know, Alan, but a lot of that history is fictional.
Exactly. So let's see. We got our must-have item of the week. This is we're gonna round table an idea, Brandon, because and we did this a little while ago, and it was pretty interesting. And we were talking about how home designs, every 10 or 20 years they change usually,
right,
and some are better than others. And we're gonna kind of more or less bounce ideas of which ones we prefer, which ones we're not fans of, and just sort of talk about that. And also in honor of Brandon, because if you're new to if you've never heard of Geek Tank Radio, for one thing, shame on you. You need to get over there. That's on our sister
for
station.
Shame.
Every Sunday morning, we do Geek Tank Radio together, and it's a lot of fun. It's superheroes, science fiction, nerd stuff.
Philosophical questions about exactly what you would do with the Jedi powers that you'll never have.
Exactly. But Brandon, you work with tools. You're a homeowner.
I do.
That's why you're fully qualified to step into Alan's shoes here for this week. But your tools differ a little from mine.
Right.
Your tools basically are used to make art.
That's true. It's where the normal person will use a rotary tool to shave off edges or anything like that. I use them to manipulate copper and build hockey masks.
Yeah, exactly. So some tools you would say are more functional. Some are more that's what we're saying, to make artistic statements. I have a couple, and we're going to talk about that. We don't really showcase that enough on
It's
Tool
true.
Talk.
And you think about it, even when you're working, Joe, you've built so many things. You built decks, docks, pergolas. There's artistic endeavors in all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some tools are more, let's just face it, some are more, functional. A table saw, I don't know how much art you're creating on a table saw.
Well, you helped me build a coffin using a table saw.
So there you go. We're going to get into that later in the show. So we got quite a bit on the table. And as we said, we'd love to talk to you. It's a great day to chime in on the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. But because we've got so much on the table, we're going to shake it up a little. And we're going to get right to our must-have item of the week, Brandon. So,
okay. What you got
so
for us, Joe?
Here's what I've got, folks. If you're watching this on the camera, I think am I on camera with this, Max?
You are.
Okay. So, Brandon, you want to tell people what I'm holding up?
Okay, guys, this is a flexible bit extender for your drill, sometimes just referred to as a flex bit.
Yep.
It allows you to get around corners and into odd places when you need to use your power tools.
Yeah, it's for your drill. Yeah. It goes in the end. It's got the hex bit, so it's the standard. I want to say, I can't remember if it's like 5/16, whatever that standard opening is. It just slips right in there, and then it is great because what basically happens is there's a interior and an exterior. I don't know if you can see this, folks, but I'm spinning it. The outside stays put, so you can hold it with your hand,
right,
while the interior spins. It's amazing. I mean, now, if you have a screw or something that's really stuck, this may not be enough for it because it tends to slip out. But if you've just got a pretty standard, thing to get to, but it's in that tight corner,
I could have really used one of these about 2 weeks ago when I rebuilt the housing around my steering column because I had to replace my ignition and everything else. Some of the places that those screws are, they're not easy to get to.
I gotta believe a lot of our auto shop guys have these. They probably have every link. Because I mean, that is true. That's the one thing about auto repair is getting to everything. So, but it's really cool. It's cheap. I mean, I always say, this is probably $15 or something like that. But when you need it, you need it. So, it's a pretty handy device, and I used it just this week, as you said, and it was basically if you use it right too. If you need to get that extra bit of reach and you just sort of point it straight,
right?
If you don't move it too much, it's actually got enough. It'll center itself, so you can suddenly turn your drill. You just added another 10-inch reach with your drill,
which sometimes is good for the electrical shock that you may get if you get a little too close.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our must-have item of the week. If you've ever used one of these, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know your opinion. But it's a lifesaver. I love this thing. The 10-inch flexible drill bit extender. So, well, boy, I don't even know what to say. We've got. We're just gonna pull the Band-Aid off here, Brandon. When we come back, we have got to say goodbye. We're gonna pay tribute to a legend. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Max, turn your microphone off, man. We're live. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. Live radio. Brandon, what do you want?
It's true.
I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio, sitting in for the absent Alan Gilbreth. I don't remember where he said he was going.
Oh, I know where he's going, but I don't want to tell anybody because they may rush up there to bombard him because it was about getting away from all the people who are constantly getting him to do work for them.
Oh, yeah.
But I was going to ask, did we have to refund our listeners today since he's not here?
Well, yeah, you get, I guess, yeah. That's probably
I'm a better value.
Okay.
I am the money.
Yeah, Alan is cursed with many things that make it where he never gets a weekend off. He
really does.
For one thing, he owns a pickup truck. He knows how to fix everything. He knows all the state regulations, and he is trouble saying no to people.
He grows vegetables, smokes meats, makes wine. He gets roped into everything.
Yeah, if the grid ever goes down, people, and the apocalypse arrives, just go to Alan's house. I mean, he's got enough food. He's got food supplies. He knows how to make
Yeah, he
can start a fire out of anything.
It's true.
So.
Well, sometimes that's on accident, though.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with us and lament Alan's absence, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. You can also watch the show at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page or the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. And we definitely encourage you to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, and you'll be able to see all the posts we've made, including what we're going to discuss now. Let's do it, Max. Okay. Once again, he kills the drama by... There we go.
Well, you didn't point and say it's ready.
I figured you were cute. Okay, whatever. So, boy, did we lose a legend this week. You know, Brandon, occasionally we have to discuss that on Geek Tank sometimes.
It's true. But,
somebody goes away and you've got to... But like I said, we are not here to mourn the fallen. We are here to celebrate their legacy. But I think I can set this up no better than to just read basically the obituary here that I've got in front of me. So
I'm listening with bated breath.
All right, here we go. It is with great regret that I must report that the 27-year-old Ryobi variable speed drill, known fondly to Tool Talk Radio listeners as Old Blue, finally met his demise on March 1st, 2024 at 10:04 a.m. under an overcast sky. Wow.
Wouldn't it have been
solemn?
Wouldn't it have been under an overcast sky? Because,
Okay.
I mean, I know you get up on ladders.
I said under an overcast sky.
You said over and under.
Okay, don't knit. Okay. In the midst of performing his duties, installing several 10-inch structural screws into two abutting 2x14 LVL support beams, Old Blue began to experience struggles with his RPM and was clearly straining as he tried to harness the torque necessary to drive the oversized construction screws into place. I mean, that is tough. Those things, they really resist. So Brandon's getting very emotional. Moments later, the crisis escalated as smoke began discharging from his ventilation casing while simultaneously flames jetted out of his wire housing. And I am not making this up, Brandon. I never saw anything like that. It was pretty incredible.
I can imagine.
Seconds later, Old Blue's turbines went quiet and stopped turning completely, while wisps of smoke issued from his now silent motor into the brisk late winter breeze. A pretty fitting ending, I think.
Yeah.
Looked like something out of an old World War I movie or something. Attempts were made to resuscitate by rewiring Old Blue's charred power coupling, but the efforts proved futile. I didn't have any duct tape with me.
Now, I'm envisioning you holding Old Blue in your hands while it's saying, it's looking up at you and saying, "Don't leave me behind, Joe. Tell my wife I loved her."
Old Blue is survived by a vast family of power tools who he has served with side by side for the past 2 decades. He will be greatly missed, but his service will never be forgotten. Old Blue's remains will be housed in a place of honor in the Thorderson family's garage. Yeah, Brent, I never thought this day would come. I mean, there's some things that they're just there forever, and then they're not.
So how long? How long after this happened did you actually mourn before you ran to the big box store to get you a new one?
No.
Really?
Old Blue. Well, because don't forget, Old Blue is from another generation.
Well,
it's a
true.
plug-in drill.
Well, it's true. You're not going to be able to get anything like that again. But because it's one of those drills that's got the short plug where you have to have the 20-mile extension cord to use it.
Right. Right. And if you see the, I posted a picture, you'll see, I mean, his Old Blue's basic, I mean, it's worn down. You can't even see the label.
Right.
The Ryobi label's just worn out. There's so many little chipped and cracked things. But Brandon, it led, so old, like I said, who knows? Maybe somebody out there, if you've got tips for resuscitating, here's what happened. This thing, and I could already hear people out there now. They're thinking what a cruel guy I am. It's like, when the smoke started coming out, why didn't you stop? Well, I did.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily stop the fire on the inside.
And then I'm like, okay, it cooled down. Like, because I've seen smoke. This is not the first time smoke has come out of the motor.
I mean, anytime you've got a hand-me-down tool from an older generation, you'll have those moments where they overheat while you're using them. Usually, you can set them aside, let them cool down, and then you can go back to work.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what you were expecting. This was just an overheat issue. you didn't realize that this was the last gas.
This was the last hurrah for Old Blue. So basically, I let him cool. I let it cool off, and it was chilly out, so it was easy to And then fired it up again, and then there was this sort of pop sound, and then all of a sudden flames started coming out by the power cord. Not huge; they were probably a couple inches, but I've never had that happen before.
That motor melted down.
Yeah, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I pre-drilled the holes too. It's not like I was.
It's like I made it easy on him.
I was making it as easy as possible. But this is a drill that has got me through. I've drilled through concrete with Old Blue. I've drilled through every type of whatever.
Right.
But he didn't survive, Brandon. So
it's always hard to say goodbye to a stalwart friend, and and the way you talked about Old Blue, it's it was a second only to your wife and kids.
Well, yeah, it's pretty much as old as my kids too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did the math, and because I don't have the receipt, but I'm pretty sure I bought Old Blue for about $39, like 27 years ago, something like that. So, and anyway, we'll see. Maybe there's life left in. I don't know, but flames shooting out and melting the electrical system.
Look,
I'm not sure.
I have been in your garage many times.
Yeah,
and there is a nice place of honor for this drill. It's like
I'm gonna get a glass frame.
No, you need to dip it in gold.
But then it won't be Old
But then
Blue.
it's not. No, I think, Max, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get one of those. What do they call them? Shadow box.
Yeah.
Like where you display baseball bats or something. I'll get one appropriately shaped and then put maybe some
If
light.
you're
on
looking
there.
for blue metal, why don't you just dip it in chrome?
No, I'm not gonna
Blue
violate Old Blue, man. If you,
What is up with you and the desecration of the corpse, Max?
I don't know. I was considering like taxidermy for Old Blue.
Yeah, but taxidermists, they stuff their old.
Well, here's the thing. Taxidermy could give Old Blue a new life.
Yeah.
Because if you open that shell and realize that you can put new pieces in it,
Yeah.
you might be able to, it'd be like getting an organ transplant.
We may do a transplant. I don't know if I can say goodbye yet, but anyway, what I was going to say, Brandon, it led to kind of a bigger discussion because if I'm being honest, there were times back early in Old Blue's career where I didn't really give him a second thought. I'm like, more or less, it was a drill. It's like
here's the drill.
Here's the drill. I'm going to grab the drill. But
Right.
then there is some moment, and I know that our tool people out there know this, where something goes from being an appliance to basically, you could say, a trusted friend.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I will tell you, for me, there were a couple of pivotal moments for me with Old Blue. I was one event I'll never forget. It was several years ago. I was working in Holly Springs, which, folks, for me, that's a good 40-minute drive. And this place was in the middle of nowhere. It was like almost farm country.
Yeah.
It was a good probably 15 miles from the closest big box store. And I was rushing to finish an outside job before the sun went down. And I was 20 feet up on a ladder. I was screwing in some shutters, basically. And I had Old Blue propped up on the top of the ladder, and he fell 20 feet onto concrete.
Wow.
I'm like, well, there's no way the drill's going to survive this. And now it messed up my whole day. I'm going to have to go get another drill, do this. I'll never finish in time. I went down to the concrete, picked it up, and it worked perfectly.
Nice.
He worked perfectly, I should say. And I'm like, at this moment, you're going to have to pry this drill from my cold, dead hands.
Was that the moment that it went from the drill to Old Blue?
Pretty much. Yeah, that was at least one of the pivotal moments. But you know what I mean, Brandon?
Yeah.
You probably got experiences like this, right?
Yeah. When I'm working with EVA foam or the copper or any of the resin stuff,
What's EVA? That expanding?
It's a very flexible, thicker foam. It's used for art projects like making armor for a cosplay and whatnot.
Right.
And well,
Brandon's a geek, folks. Don't forget, he makes costumes.
In order to do this, you've got to master a rotary tool, like there's nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm good with a Dremel, but my first rotary tool was a Sears Craftsman rotary, 10-speed rotary tool. And it's what I learned to work with. And, it actually had one of those extender bits for using for a rotary tool.
Those things are great, man.
No, and don't get me wrong, I love all the rotary tools I've had since then, but none of them worked the same as that one did. That one it fit in the hand just perfectly. It didn't have too much, wobble or anything like that. That's one of the biggest problems with today's is you can't tighten them enough so that they stay stable in the middle of it. You have to constantly retighten them.
Oh, very good.
That one, I never had that issue. And it kind of had the same thing. That the motor on the inside just busted one day. It just popped.
Hey, we're going to continue swapping some tool tales, and we've got a lot more to get to as well. But you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
I'm in danger.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, that's great. I'm not hiring that guy. He doesn't know how to manage a crisis.
So,
Anyway,
Joe...
Well, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. We're with my buddy Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio, sitting in for the absent Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and their X page. And also, the place to be right now, I suppose, is the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, Brandon. If you're just tuning in, I lost a legend in my tool arsenal. Old Blue finally bought the farm, Brandon, and we posted the obituary and a photo of Old Blue and the 10-inch construction screw, which finally did him in and burned out his motor. I mean, he literally went out with a blaze of glory. But some people are, sending their condolences. Brandon, what do you got?
And before I get into the comments being left for us, I do have to ask, Joe. You also posted a picture of the final job.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this your own project, or is this part of the contracting work?
No, it's my contract. It's at this stage of the operation, it's a pretty big project. I've been working on it for a few months, but it's at this stage. These are it's a carport to accommodate 2 cars, but it's actually oversized. It's pretty big. It's like 24 feet across by 23 or something like that. And these beams are those 14-inch LVL, and you have to butt 2 of them together. That's where it did him in. It's really big,
See, I'm looking at this, and I just thought it was you trying to take vigilante justice on certain playground areas we've talked about in the past.
Oh yeah, okay. But no, people are chiming in.
We've got a couple of responses. I'm going to start first with Robbie Allen's Custom Hardwood Flooring, who has said that I guess you should cut the cord and bury Old Blue. I can't agree with that. I don't think you can possibly bury him. He has to have a place of prominence.
Yeah,
He goes on the mantle next to an urn that has his interiors, in it.
Well, if I have my way, Old Blue's going up above the fireplace, but I don't know if my wife's going to allow that.
Well, you just take down that big portrait of the family and put Old Blue there. She'll understand.
So, Robbie, the only contention I have, though, is part of the dramatic end of Old Blue was his motor starting on fire and the flames coming out of the cord. So I don't know that I want to get rid of that. I mean, we need the photo. We need the evidence of like what did him in.
At least until the insurance policy pays off.
Yeah. So I think I would just leave him intact. Maybe wrap the cord respectfully, put it in a glass case, and we'll see. Maybe she'll let me put it above the fireplace. I don't know.
But I also have to give a major thanks to Joel McKeel for his comment. Sorry for your loss. I understand the feeling of the magic smoke wafting out of the cooling vents mid-job.
Oh, yeah.
And
we've all been there.
We've all been there. And this right here, it symbolizes exactly what you want to hear from someone who's, who other than just the the typical, I'm sorry for your loss. He at least understands.
This is a fellow traveler. That's true. You don't want some hollow platitudes where they're like, okay, yeah, sorry, big deal. Yeah. Rolling their eyes as they walk away, not realizing the bond you had with this power drill.
What's really sad is that I've been at actual funerals where people were that way, and they're just so callous. But he is showing you he genuinely cares.
Yeah. So thanks, you guys. We appreciate that. And I don't know, Robbie, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't know that I could bury Old Blue.
No,
not going to happen. It's not like you have to worry about decay. I mean, it's not.
It's true. It's true.
We're not talking about a pet here.
It's not going to attract maggots and bugs. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
No. So if you've got any, if you want, the there's still time to send yours in because it's leading to a bigger discussion. We're talking about like when does a power tool go from basically an appliance to some more or less a trusted friend.
Right.
So we'll continue that conversation in a minute. But before we do that, I know a man. There's probably I know our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration would feel my pain. I hope.
Oh.
I hope he wouldn't roll his eyes at me if the.
See, I thought you were going to go a different direction with that, and I'm not going to say it on the air, but I'll say it to him when the next time we're all together.
Well, he's a man that respects technology. He respects his tools. They take good care of their. They got a fleet of state of the art vehicles. This is a guy that works.
He takes care of everything involved with Brown Refrigeration.
Absolutely.
Especially the clients.
Exactly. So Brown Refrigeration, Larry Brown, this is his game. This is his passion.
Yeah.
And why not? He's good at it. He's been in the HVAC game for getting close to, we're getting over 40 years now.
Yeah.
Brown Refrigeration is really an institution here in Memphis. And if you live in a climate like ours, what is more important than your HVAC system? It is the heartbeat of your house. It's not only important here to keep to keep it warm or cool. It's also about the proper humidity and keeping your air with the proper moisture content. Let's face it, that's a huge problem here in the Mid-South.
Yeah, the humidity here, it gets into everything, and you definitely want something in your house that will regulate, or else you're going to have a soggy house.
Yeah, it's air conditioning. And also, Larry Brown keeps up with the latest technology, and he's always looking about 5 or 10 years ahead to anticipate where things are going. One of those developments is the Remy Halo system, which basically uses the UV power of the sun, and it creates the cleanest air possible coming out of your ducts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a pet owner, the Remy Halo system is a must-have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's not only clean air that's coming out, it's got cleaning particulates that every surface that it lands on, it's cleaning that surface. And your HVAC system is not something you just forget about. This is something that needs your attention at least a couple times a year. You need to keep your air ducts clean. You need to keep your filters changed, and it's a good idea to get basically a preventative maintenance tune-up. And that's why, have the Brown Refrigeration out there once or twice a year to look it over. The visit is next to nothing, and it pays for itself down the road. Also, if there's going to be, if you might have some problems, they can anticipate those problems, and you can make your plans. They also have great financing. They're just great people. They have a awesome business culture that's been created over there. Everybody there takes a lot of pride in their work. You cannot beat Brown Refrigeration. We love those guys over there. Get in touch with them. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, we're, as we said here on Tool Talk Radio, we don't mourn the fallen. We celebrate their legacy and everything. And it's led us to a bigger conversation. The demise of my trusted drill, Old Blue, which I'm really beating into the ground, I suppose. But, anyway.
Well, no, that's when you dropped him off the ladder. If you don't know what we're talking about, you got to listen to the first segment.
But some people, may say, well, this thing is not a living creature. How do people, but we do get attached to cars or tools or inanimate things, and they sort of become important to us on a different level. But it's always interesting wondering where that transformation comes from. When does a tool go from being just a tool
to something you're attached to?
Right.
I think there's always going to be that moment where you are in the middle of a project, whatever it is, and you realize you couldn't even be remotely into thinking about doing this project without this tool that you had. Mm-hmm. I talked earlier about rotary tools, but I think one of my favorite things to use, especially in my art projects, is my heat gun. I have a holster for it. It's plugged in and everything, but I have a holster for it. So, like, if I'm burning pallets for a crooked haunted fence, or if I need to warp foam or anything, that heat gun is like it's an immediate go-to. Now, I haven't given my heat gun a name, but maybe the audience can help me come up with one eventually. But
how about Charizard? In honor of National Pokemon
Day, Max did it. Sorry, guys. There's no need for a poll now.
You know what you're making me think? I think this is true with tool. This is true with probably just about anything. If you reach a crisis moment and this tool gets you out of that, or I've been on jobs where you could almost call it a crisis or something really bad happens and that one person steps up and helps. We've seen that with our convention.
Definitely.
When those are the people that really bond themselves to you. It's like, wow, they stepped up, they took care of business, they got us through that, and that's when the transformation I think happens.
I think you're right. I mean, because you bring up people from the convention. It's like Alyssa Diggs and Savannah Frizzell. 2 kids who you wouldn't have expected to have any motivation to deal with things like this, and both have become intricate parts.
Right.
I can't imagine doing the cons without them.
Yeah, I think there's something to
and
that.
I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at by both of them later on for referring to them basically as tools.
Well, yeah, that's probably not a good. But no, I think there's something to that. So if you're out there and you've got some power tool or something out there that is basically could be argued as an inanimate object, well, you know what? There's a reason we get attached to these things.
And if you think anybody out there who thinks they don't have that, in the middle of a project, if you've ever gone, where is my, and then frantically started looking for something, that's the item.
Well, let's face it, too. I mean, unfortunately, these days, we have that attachment with our phones, too. I don't know that it's the same, though. I couldn't care. If my phone fell into the toilet
there's a difference,
and whatever,
there's
I'd
a
go get
difference
another
between
one.
a tool and a utility, and the phone is a utility.
Yeah, at least it should be, I hope. So, yeah. All right. So we've got that. That's on the table today. Feel free at any point to chime in on that. But, Brandon, we do have to move it along.
I guess so.
I'm looking forward to this next discussion because, you're an artist. You're a writer. You're a geek.
I'm a big old nerd.
You take those passions and you make some pretty cool things like, unique costumes or Freddy Krueger masks and things like that. So we're gonna talk about tools that really are more they're creating art. I have a few tools in my arsenal that that's what we use them for. So we're gonna talk about making art with tools. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Would you please come help me tamp this down? It's a job that requires 2 men.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Well, I'd say this is a job. This show is a job that requires 2 men. Well, actually 3 men, but
Technically only requires 1.
okay. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my visiting guest, Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio, filling in for the absent Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. I forgot where he's going. He's in Nashville or something?
He's in Nashville.
Okay.
He's taking a class.
Oh, so he's actually, this is a working, this isn't just some slacking off type thing. Okay, well, can't argue with that. So Alan will be back next week. And our buddy Max behind the glass. If you want to weigh in, today's a really good day to do it because we always get a different perspective when Brandon sits in. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Boy, I wish Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling was here today.
I love talking with Jay.
Well, I love Jay, but at the same time, it's always fun to pull his strings because he knows nothing about geek stuff or anything to do, and he just stares blankly at you when you talk about.
He at least pretends like he's listening to me.
Yeah,
he's a good buddy.
But the reason I'd like that is because today on our Great Moments in Building History in the second hour of the show, we're going to talk. We're going to discuss a fictional construction.
Yeah.
But the reason is because there's a lot of good lessons you can learn from this fictional construction about home design. And we're going to tie it all together.
I'm sure
Death Star from Star Wars.
I'm sure Jay would have a lot to say about a round roof.
Yeah. So that's going to be on the table coming up. And also, if you want to watch the show and see what's going on over here, you can go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and their X page. And check out the posts we've made over at the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We're not going to just beat it into the ground, but this week I did suffer a loss. My beloved corded power drill that I've had for 27 years, Old Blue, finally bought the farm. And but he went out doing his duty. It's not like he got run over by a truck or something. He was in the middle of trying to drill in some 10-inch construction screws, and it was just too much.
Hey,
and the motor started on fire.
You work as hard as you can until you can't work no more.
I hope I go out with as much, intensity as Old Blue. Going out in a blaze of glory. That's the way to do it.
See, you've dropped a few Southern colloquialisms in this sentence, like buying the farm and blaze of glory. And there's a part of me that just wants to go, Max, we need the etymology origin of both of those phrases. But I know we don't have time on this show because the time just runs away.
Well, if you want to send your condolences too, you can go to Facebook or just send in your comments here at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. But, Max, we've got some tool tales that we're going to share.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
And one day, Brandon, I'll stop introducing tool tales and let the instead of having the redundant intro. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's not going to be this day.
It's not going to be today.
So, Brandon, one reason it's good having you here is we get a little bit of a different perspective, because I would say, if I'm being honest, a lot of the tools I use on a daily basis are basically what I would call functional. That's like, okay, I got to cut that 2x4 in half, or I have to whatever. I don't think about the artistic nature of that, but occasionally I'll use tools that are really, the focus of it is to create what you would call art. And I would say a large number of the tools in your arsenal are made to create art. So
absolutely.
We're going to talk about some of that. And so I'm going to let you go first, because folks, if you don't know, Brandon is he's a horror guy.
I am a horror guy.
And you're big into making these, what is it, the franchise? Is it Friday the 13th? Those masks? I
do hockey masks, from Friday the 13th. I have been known to put together a handful of Freddy Claus from Nightmare on Elm Street. But, I mean, me and my wife are both big Halloween people, so we work on stuff, year long, getting things ready for that.
Right.
I got you and Alan to help me once upon a time to build a coffin to put candy in, because, on Halloween night, we kind of sit back and we watch from afar as the costumers come up, and we kind of started this during the pandemic, where we did the social distancing.
Oh, right.
And it just kind of became a thing where we have this coffin that is full of candy. Yeah. And we usually have to refill it. Yeah, I'm one of those good neighborhoods. We usually have to refill it 3 or 4 times through the night.
Oh, the kids in your neighborhood love your house.
Oh, absolutely.
Man. Yep.
But we have tools that we have the same tools in our arsenal as you have in yours. We just use them differently. Most people, they've got a butane torch. They're using it for, I don't know what they use it for. I use it for weathering wood.
Right.
We have had a creepy Halloween fence every year, and we have had to, replace boards and everything. But you can't just get a new board and go, okay, here we go. Here's this nice shiny board over here, and the rest of it, you have to weather it. And I also use a belt grinder. Oh yeah,
you can't have it clean and pristine. Right. It's got to look haunted and beat up and everything.
And where you might have a grinder for just like smoothing out the edges on something. I use it to break chunks off of hockey masks and wood. And it is mounted to an old computer desk, believe it or not, in my workshop.
I believe it. Yeah.
My wife, she tries to keep things in order, because she's very much into the organization. But I will take the stuff that she's used, that she would use for normal everyday home improvement stuff, and I'm like chopping off little bits of nails to hot glue onto something so it looks like it's riveted. Because I'm doing the art stuff, and she will look at me like I have wasted the gold basically. It's like those nails are for those are masonry nails. They're in case we need to put something on the side of the house.
Sure.
I'm like going, yeah, but they look better on the side of a cosplay for a plastic skeleton.
Hey, Brandon, here's one thing, though. I'm just looking at our notes. We've dropped the word Dremel several times. Yeah. I don't know that Dremel is such a household name that everybody knows what it is. So I think you should describe what a Dremel tool, because I think of something like you see at the dentist's office.
So a Dremel tool is, you're not wrong.
What is a Dremel tool?
A Dremel tool, it's a rotary cutting tool or polishing tool, or you've got your various different bits and bobs to put on the end of it. You can use it for polishing, grinding. The cutting wheel is like one of my favorite things in the entire world, because if I need to get into a small space, and even if I'm using it for conventional, improvements, like every so often you have an appliance that someone decided they're going to put a bolt on instead of an actual screw.
Oh,
and there's no way of getting it off because it's rounded.
Right.
Because they've got those ones that once they go in there, the end snaps off, and I use a Dremel to cut through, cut an X into that, and then I can use any Phillips head screwdriver to, get that bolt out.
Yeah, it's like a little spinning tool, and instead of a handle, it's almost like you're just holding it. It's almost like shaped like a pear or something like that. But when you go to the Dremel aisle at the big box store, I mean, it's nuts how many little attachments you can put in there.
You buy your basic set, and then you can get anything you need basically this side of a reciprocating saw. You can't. Well, I mean, they've got some bits that are designed to etch into wood.
Right.
When you're doing molding on your floor and whatnot. Though I buy the cheapest cutting tools, cutting wheels, and I use it to weather things. It's like you get just a little bit of nicks here and there and everything, and then you kind of sand them down so they look weathered. And most people use those to cut off screws, sand down, edges on just any kind of metal you've got. But I use it on foam to make sure that 3 pieces of glued together EVA foam all start to look like one piece, because you use the polishing wheel to basically melt the edge down on the foam because of how fast it spins.
Well, it's interesting because what you could say is you're using destruction to create artistic effects. You're melting, you're burning, you're grinding,
it just
kind of
goes to show you that
distressing.
That tools aren't just for construction, they're also for destruction, and sometimes that's the way to get the best artistic look.
Think of how many tables you've seen where, like, I will say this, back in, I think the 90s is when really this started, the whole distressed look. And, you'd see a dining room table and it looked like somebody had beat it with chains or scraped it up, and that it added so much personality to it. Like, I'm a big fan of distressed stuff if it's done correctly. You can overdo it, but
you'd be surprised how many people think that you're actually using old or reclaimed wood, when this is literally something you ran down to wherever you're getting your local lumber source at,
right? And
you're buying this stuff brand new, and then you're taking the right tools to it.
Yeah, pretty cool. So we'll continue that conversation. We have a little bit more to say about tools that create art. I've got a couple in my arsenal, but Brandon, we're at the top of the hour, so you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. Hour 1 is in the can, but stay tuned for Hour 2.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Finally, Max has an appropriate rejoinder. Thanks, Max. Well done, sir. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. And I like that he's a planner. I mean, say what you want about Palpatine. He's an evil, tyrant, but he makes plans and
he's committed to the bids.
Exactly.
Your master plan is only going to work if you've gone over every detail intricately and weighed the pros and cons.
Exactly. He probably should have weighed the cons better, but we'll get into that. And welcome back to let's. I'm all confused, Brandon. Welcome back to
we're on Geek Tank.
Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Brandon Olmstead, sitting from Geek Tank Radio, sitting in for Alan Gilbreth. He'll be back next week. He's actually improving his mind. He's doing some educational, studies or something. So.
Given what I know about Alan, I don't think he ever stops learning.
No, I'll give him that. That's true.
What do they call it? Experiential learning.
Yeah.
Which sometimes leads to just as much smoke as came out of Old Blue.
Exactly. And our buddy Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. You can also watch the show at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and their X page. And it's a really good day to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. We're moving forward. There's still time if you feel like sending in your condolences for the fallen Ryobi drill of mine, Old Blue, 27 years in service, finally succumbed to basically started on fire after trying to drill in some 10-inch construction screws. It was just too much for him, and he is now the late Old Blue, Brandon. So, and a few people have been sending in their condolences. So, but hey, I just wanted to close out with a few things. You know, we were talking about tools that basically are used more for artistic purposes. You could say the wood lathe is a perfect example. I mean, a lot of that, I suppose, if you were making something just a round spindle or something and it had to be the exact diameter, but more or less, a lathe is something, you know. And you were talking about some of the art you create with your tools, and we were just reflecting that when you're doing that, there's just something that happens where you kind of get into this zone where you're not thinking about anything else. And if you work with tools, or if maybe you're a painter or you have something in your life like that, that's pretty important, and you should make time for that because
absolutely
it's good for your soul, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it definitely leads you into that moment where, you know, you can just kind of let all your problems kind of disappear for a minute.
Yeah, and then you have the satisfaction of making something too. You step back and you're like, wow, and it's something you know.
Yeah,
that you can be proud of.
It's definitely good if you're feeling a little down and useless.
Yeah,
make art.
Exactly, and nothing's better than making art and giving it as a gift, because that's like a gift people will appreciate. So, all right. Well, Max, I've really been looking forward to this discussion. Let's hit it, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, Brandon, in your honor, let's face it, and I didn't have to fight too hard on that. This is something, you know, let's face it, if you and I could, we like this stuff.
We
do.
Geek
stuff. And how often do geek conversations stray into you know, real life conversations, and how often do they influence the culture?
Quite often. I mean, think about all the different items we have today that showed up in sci-fi, whether it be literature, movies, or TV shows.
Right, exactly.
Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're carrying basically.
You got tricorders in your pocket, man.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the first Death Star, and people may be thinking, "Oh, what's the?" You know, if you know Star Wars, you go, "Oh, wait a minute, yeah, there are two Death Stars." So
the DS-1 orbital battle
DS-1.
station. That's what it's called. That's the actual designation is the DS-1 orbital battle station.
Right. So and I should say, just if you're tuning in, this is going to totally connect to home improvement. I've got notes here, Brandon. This is a great thing to consider when you're thinking about home design. So, but let's give it its due. So, the Death Star. Now, it's a fictional construction,
right?
So, some of these are estimates because some people don't agree. You know how geeks like to argue about all the minutia.
Well, and nobody argues against themselves better than a Star Wars fan.
Exactly. So, but we can safely say, roughly, the first Death Star was about 75 miles in diameter.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Well,
a man-made, or whatever you want to say, droid-made and all that construction. 75 miles. Okay. So now you have to start getting your head around what that actually looks like. Like I was looking up some statistics. The Nimitz class aircraft carriers, they use 106 tons of steel. If you wanted to create one of those, you would have to use I want to make sure I got my numbers right, but it's something along the lines of 11.3 billion times the Nimitz class aircraft carriers. Wow. So you're using 11.3 billion aircraft carriers to make the Death Star. So that's a lot of steel, Brandon.
That is a ton of steel.
Now,
actually, it's several tons of steel.
Before you were out there saying, "Oh man, Star Wars is so fake," you know, we don't even have enough steel on Earth to make that. Well, keep in mind the Galactic Empire has thousands of planets in its network. So I mean, if they each chipped in a little, they could easily build the Death Star.
And they also have, various ways of fabricating. I mean, they've got planets that are built directly or that are terraformed directly for fabricating metals.
Right.
I mean, it's just, hey, if you can't get past the whole who puts the air in the Batmobile's tires, you don't need to be a part of this conversation.
So that comes to something like 1.2 quadrillion tons of steel. Okay, and that's got 15 zeros that I'm counting here.
It's a good thing that they're doing this in space, so it doesn't weigh that much.
Yeah. And it's important to note the very hefty price tag, and that's about $1.2 quintillion.
How many zeros are on that, Max? That's
I think 15.
Now, Palpatine, let's face it.
It was a write-off.
Yeah. He was using droids. They were using, I hate to say it, slave labor. They got it done. But Brandon, here's some more stats. Let's see. It has 360 million square kilometers of floor space. They calculated that it would take 11.4 million years to mop the floors of the Death Star.
Well, that's why you have the mouse droids.
Right.
You just put sponges on them. 400
million maintenance droids, 1.75 million residents of the Death Star.
Yep.
And Brandon, we think of that
and
stormtroopers, but there were some civilians,
1.7 million military personnel, but 250,000 of the people on the Death Star were civilians.
Right. And, the thing is, there's very few 90-degree angles on the Death Star. When you're building a sphere, I can't imagine the challenges involved.
See, this is why we need Jay Hill here.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's like we've all seen a tin roof, but have you seen a round tin roof?
Yeah, I don't know, man. But they got it done. And, it is, I will say, I think just about everybody listening probably knows what the Death Star looks like.
Right.
And it's so...
It looks like a moon with a big crater in the center of it.
Right.
That's where the laser lives.
There's a lot of impressive things, and, you could say about the Death Star.
And there's one thing about the Death Star that I can say is very much in lieu with, some of the fly-by-night contractors that we've all had to deal with in our lifetime.
Right.
And that's the fact that it took 19 years to build.
Right.
So
that's the thing. So
how many times have you had a contractor tell you, well, it's going to be about 6 more weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that someone on the text line, our buddy Clay, storyteller to the star, says, now this is my kind of morning radio.
There we go, Clay. Well, stay tuned, Clay, because we're going to unpack this exactly. So, Brandon, when you look at the Death Star, it is imposing. It's also kind of beautiful.
And it has a simplicity that is gorgeous.
Yeah. Some of my favorite scenes in Star Wars media have been like stills of the Death Star, like when it's looming like a moon. Like when I look at the moon nowadays, sometimes I just think of the Death Star looming over us.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why we love Max.
Well, there's a moon out there. I don't know if it's Jupiter's moon. I can't remember, but Brandon, it might have been the inspiration for the Death Star. It looks a lot like it. It's got a giant crater. What is that?
It is Mimas, which is a Saturnian moon.
Saturn's moon. That's right.
And the name of the crater in it, which looks like the Death Star's plasma laser, is actually named Herschel.
Herschel. That's right. Okay. Well, I would submit that George Lucas, he could have either, if he wanted to, he could have been a great architect or a brilliant interior designer.
It's true.
That's and we're going to make that connection here shortly. But you said something, Brandon, which one of the things that I've always appreciated in Star Wars architecture, not every bit of their architecture, because the Ewoks architecture is much different from like galactic Empire technology, or artwork. However, I love that. I've always loved that phrase. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
Yes.
They didn't get all convoluted with this. It's not a big triangle, pyramid. It's a round object with a giant satellite that'll blow your planet up on the side.
And come on,
right
guys.
to the point. Boom.
One of the modern day trends now is minimalism.
Exactly. Which I'm a fan of.
Look at the interiors of the Death Star. That is some minimalist decorating.
Right. And by minimalism, everything becomes important because you're not making
more
it
brutalist, I'd say.
Oh, no, that's the outside.
I don't think it's brutal. I think we could argue that point. Well, I don't know. Is the Death Star brutalism or minimalism? Maybe. Isn't it sort of the same thing?
Well, from a different angle or from a different point of view. But hey, let's let the audience chime in.
Minimal brutalism?
Yeah. This is
brutal minimalism.
There we go.
It's too early on a Saturday for me to be speaking English.
So we've kind of laid the groundwork of giving you some statistics, and we don't have to do too much because I think most people are familiar with the Death Star. Right. Now, though, when we come back, we're going to consider how that relates to home improvement and some, ways we can learn from this mega weapon. Yeah. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation, and he is most displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I mean, I will say that you got to get everybody on the team on board, sharing the same vision if you're going to get the job done, Brandon.
It's
I mean,
true.
I don't disagree with the Emperor there.
I mean, think about MCFC. If we weren't all on board, with
Exactly.
the right vision, it would fall apart.
Exactly. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio, sitting in for the absent Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Alan will be back next week. He's out expanding his mind. Good for him. He's taking some class on some, I don't know, I think a broadcasting class.
Broadcasting, yeah.
Okay. And our buddy Max over there behind the glass, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. It's a great day to do it, too, because we've got some interesting topics out on the table, including the one we're in the middle of right now that we're going to get back to in a moment. We're considering, for our Great Moments in Building History, a fictional construction with a lot of good lessons to teach, and that is the first Death Star from Star Wars. And in a minute, we're going to consider how that can influence good home design. Imagine making that connection.
I'm excited to see where we go with this, too.
Yeah. And if you want to watch it unfold, you can watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and their X page. And then also go on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. My only regret, Brandon, is, as I said earlier in the show, I really wish we were joined today by our good buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling, because it's really fun to talk about geek stuff with him. He doesn't know anything. He is so clueless when it comes. He doesn't know the difference between a tricorder or a lightsaber. I'm sorry.
It's not his forte.
But you know why? It's because the man is laser focused on the exterior protection of your home, from roofing to gutters to siding to windows. That's what he cares about.
Oh, yeah.
And, honestly, if I'm on a job site and I need a new roof, I don't really want to get into a discussion about lightsabers or, the force.
That is true.
I want the man to be focused, and that's what he does. We always love to lean into his roofing expertise because Jay is a GAF, Master Elite Installer. His whole team is certified. You don't just put those things up.
No.
There is training that's involved with those. These are roofing systems that they put up. GAF we love because they're always at the cutting edge of roofing technology. And these roofing systems are so effective that they offer a lifetime transferable warranty. Brandon, you and I both have Big M roofs on our house, and I love it.
And I'm going to just be completely transparent out here. I had gotten an estimate from another company, or they were supposed to be getting me an estimate.
Right.
And they were just humming and hawing, not getting back to me, not responding to my calls. And you were like, "Hey, I met Jay Hill at the home show of the Mid-South. He's already done my roof. Here's his number." I called him. He came over. Not only did he get me an estimate immediately, he then also spoke with my insurance company and took care of everything. I literally had the roof before I ever heard back from the other company.
Right. And that was early on in our career meeting Jay, and we met him organically. Met him at a home show, and it's because my roof was a disaster, and I needed some help.
You had been fighting roof rats.
Oh,
so there were holes.
We had squirrels, we had everything. But Jay took care of the problem, and that is what's great. Jay's, among other things, Jay is a former insurance agent, and he uses that. That's really been a big advantage in his roofing business, because if you have, you probably went through this yourself, Brandon. If you have issues with your roof, that maybe the damage is covered by your homeowner's insurance. You don't just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, my roof is damaged." It's a process. You really need almost like an advocate.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, he and Jay knows exactly who he needs to talk to and what he needs to let them know as far as damage that may have been caused by the storms. We get a lot of high wind storms here in the Mid-South. And that can really tear up your shingles if they're, of a certain age.
Yeah.
And he got up there and he saw where my problems. Well, he had one of his guys get up there because he's talking to me the whole time.
Yeah. Yep.
And they told me what the issues were, and he got it handled.
Yeah.
And he's checked in with me, routinely to just make sure everything's still good.
And what I always love about Jay is he brings optimism and excitement to a job site. Like he shows up and there's an energy, and you're like, wow, this is an exciting event. This isn't something I'm dreading anymore. This is cool.
And it's like, that's just a certain part of his personality that helps out. that a lot of people that you work with on various things don't, when they don't have that energy, it feels like a slog. It feels like, why am I doing this? Why am I involved in this? Why did I buy a house?
Right.
But Jay makes you feel good about, the work that's going to be done, and he will reassure you at every step of the way.
And that goes for all the exterior, of your home, gutters, siding, windows, and roofing. So we love Jay Hill. He's the first call you should make when you have any issues with the outside of your home. You can get in touch with him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. And I don't know, you might even see pictures of Brandon and I's roof.
It's true.
There's a lot of stuff on that website. So, all right, if you're just tuning in our Great Moments in Building History, we were talking about the Death Star from Star Wars, the first Death Star, because that's the one that was completed.
Right.
Took 19 years to make. But let's say this, Brandon. In defense of Emperor Palpatine, they had to build this thing in secret. The Senate did not approve this. No. Right.
This makes me think of that quote, nothing wrong with a little order.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, he had that challenge. Nobody had ever built anything like this before.
Yeah.
It's 75 miles in diameter.
And I want to take a moment to say that I feel that Palpatine and Vader were both being very unfair to the construction of the Death Star 2.
Yeah.
Because it took them 19 years to get the first one built. You see, it's 6 years. It's 6 years, 4 to 6 years later,
right?
And they've got
they got a pretty good chunk.
They got 3/4 of it finished,
right. And the Death Star 2 is larger than the first Death Star.
Yeah. So, but anyway, now we're going to consider what lessons we can learn from the construction of the Death Star to help us in our home. First of all, I'm going to say this, Brandon.
Okay.
And I said this earlier before the break. If George Lucas didn't get into filmmaking, he could have been a master architect and an interior designer.
It's true.
I would hold up I personally think the Death Star and many of the Empire's facilities are a masterwork of the proper use and the dramatic use of lighting.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen better lit rooms or spaces? Or, I mean, you can learn a lot from studying the lighting in the Death Star.
And you bring up interior design as well. Look at the bridge of one of the Star Destroyers. That is the best use of space I have ever seen.
Right.
Nothing's too crowded. Everything's where it needs to be. You could get to any part of it, quickly enough. And yet it's just laid out in such a way that, it wouldn't be confusing.
Right. Yeah, we talk about minimalism, and that is a trend. Now, you can take minimalism to the extreme. I've seen Max's house. I mean, his room, he literally has like a bed, a desk, whatever. I mean, Max, you could at least put some artwork.
I have a piano.
Okay, good.
It's for making art.
He takes it to the extreme.
I've always envisioned Max's house to have tapestries and katanas on the wall.
Right. What I like about the use of minimalism here on the Death Star is everything has its function. There's the control panel over there. We're not going to cramp. We're not going to shoehorn it in the middle of a bunch of columns or whatever. You can get to, the workers can get to their space, and it shows off real nice.
Joe, when you've been working at a house, how often have you walked in and gone to hit the light switch where it should be, and it's not there?
Oh, it's behind.
It's behind the door,
a dresser. It's behind whatever.
It's over there across the room on the wall. Makes no sense why it's there. If you notice, there's a panel next to every door on the Death Star.
The designers of the Death Star knew all about feng shui.
Yes.
You get, lighting,
the flow.
Here's what I will say too. Now let's just be honest. There was a flaw in the Death Star. Basically, it was, which was planted by Galen Erso, we learned later in Rogue One, because it answered a question, why should you make this big, impressive thing and then one torpedo basically blows the whole thing up? Okay. So what I'm thinking with that is when it comes to home design, don't fall in love with a bad idea.
That's true.
How often do we get this little bug in our bonnet, we're going to build this. We're going to do this. This is exactly what I'm focused on. And everybody around you is saying that is a bad idea.
Putting your eggs into one basket, it makes me think Grand Admiral Thrawn was right. He said that we should focus on the Imperial fleet instead.
Well, he was. Yeah. Palpatine wanted this one mega weapon. Thrawn was saying, make a fleet and spread out your power. And it turned out he was right.
And, but guys, I want to go ahead and tell you, if you're building a house, The smart move on the Death Star would have been to make sure that exhaust port had, angles, curves. That torpedo would have
very good.
Yeah. Don't do that with your plumbing at home.
Good point. Yeah.
Because I'm going to go ahead and let you know
pipe,
that the guy who did the plumbing in our house when it was built, he was a contractor. And he worked from scrap parts that he had.
Yeah.
We had to shut down our laundry room because there were a lot of L-shaped piping that it's basically a mouse trap that runs through our walls.
Right. Oh yeah. And that is not what you want.
That is not cool.
When I think of also not falling in love with a bad idea, it can also just be okay. So here's what I find, and this is what if I go to somebody's house and they're like, okay, we're going to remodel the kitchen. In fact, I just talked to somebody. They have a huge master bathroom. It's kind of dated, and they want to. Well, what I told her, shout out to Sandy. She's the customer's name.
Yeah.
Well, I said, okay, basically, what you really got to do is think of a realistic budget of what you want, and then we start basically constructing this based on how much you want to spend. More or less, it's like, okay, I really hate this shower over here, so we're going to budget this much to do that. And it'll dictate what you can do in the rest of the bathroom.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, if you just say, I absolutely have to have the marble such and such and the whatever, well, you just blew your whole budget on that, and now the rest of the bathroom is going to suffer because you're falling in love with what I think is a bad idea, even though it's going to turn out really beautiful. But
you bring up a good point because I recently redid our bath. Well, we had someone come in to redo our bathroom, and we had the tub taken out, and it's just a walk-in shower now. But the walls are a green marble,
right?
I mean, and everything. But where I went, I made sure that what we chose as far as the tile and everything, it fell well below budget. We budgeted for $10,000. We spent under $5,000.
There you go, and that's exciting too because it's like, wow, now I can do this other thing.
It's like I've got this money that I can put into this other part of the house.
Right, and so budget is a consideration. Now, granted, Palpatine probably had an unlimited budget because
he's cooking the books
and using cooking the books and everything like that. But we don't have that luxury. We don't have droids at our disposal to build our home improvement.
And that's another thing is like when you're looking towards contractors and everything else. Remember, you don't necessarily have unlimited funds.
Right.
I mean, if you do, more power to you.
Yeah.
Go hog wild.
I got a couple other points that will well, I got one more thing. Your home should do what it was designed to do.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Palpatine here. The Death Star did exactly what it was supposed to do. It traveled at warp speed. It could get to any place in the galaxy pretty quickly and blow the planet up like it was designed to do.
Rest in peace, Alderaanians.
Exactly. Well, your home is designed to live in. Sometimes we don't make it comfortable to live in, or we make it almost too nice where you don't want to live in it, and
it's like,
you can't touch anything. And
function
don't make
is
that
great,
mistake.
but you got to be able to be comfortable.
Exactly. So we'll have a few parting thoughts on it. I'm enjoying this conversation. I hope we don't get thrown off the air next week.
Probably.
But whatever. You're listening to live radio, as we said, Brandon. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Brought to you by Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce. What the Food and Drug Administration throws out, we throw in. Test the breaking point of your stomach lining with Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce. No pains have been spared to not spare your pain. Try Nightmare in a Bottle Hot Sauce tonight.
Yeah, one of the downfalls of going over to Brandon Olmstead's house for Halloween, don't touch the appetizers.
Hey, we keep it mild at the house because we don't know what everybody likes.
You like that Nightmare in a Bottle. You like to drop it in.
But
surprise
that goes directly into my own stuff. I won't put that on the unsuspecting guests, only on my friends who are also unsuspecting.
Okay. Boy, we got some great sponsors here
we
on
do.
Tool Talk. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Brandon Olmstead, sitting in for the missing Alan Gilbreth. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. I mean, he's out expanding his mind. He's educating himself, and he's taking a class about specific things in broadcasting.
Right.
How can I fault the guy? Hopefully he'll come back and get
visual
better.
broadcasting. So hopefully
Right.
the people watching me on this camera will have something more professional to look at next week.
Right. So he'll be back, but and we also got our buddy Max over there behind the glass. There's just enough time for a quick call or text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show. You can watch it on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and their X page. And also, you can check out the posts we've made over at the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Well, if you're just tuning in, we're really in the middle of an interesting discussion in our Great Moments in Building History. We're talking about really a fictional construction, the first Death Star from Star Wars, and how it relates to good home improvement design. Yeah. And, how often have we seen fictional, in one sort of philosophical way, Brandon, you could say, based on this, is Gotham City actually a real place? Because look how it's influenced the minds and the is the Death Star a real construction in a sense? Because anyway. Whatever. We're considering some of the lessons you can learn about home improvement. I want to just say one more thing. We did talk about what a masterpiece of great lighting and minimalism and design choices are in the Death Star and really in a lot of Star Wars architecture. I just wanted to say one more thing. Star Wars architecture, and we have to make a distinction. We're talking about the empires.
Right.
They don't play game. You're not having a bunch of frills if you're an officer in the Death Star.
And at this point we've seen enough of private quarters on the Death Star. We've seen Vader's private meditation pod and everything. We've seen Kylo Ren's quarters. Through the Mandalorian, we saw where people who were being reintroduced to society who were defectors from the Empire. The various rooms they have and things like that. If you want a minimalist room, that's the way to go. And a smart person would actually make a house that's got a lot of these and put it up on Airbnb.
Exactly. So, and I think, so what I wanted to talk about just briefly is the distinction I would make from minimalist to basically like a minimalist room or space versus just basically an empty space. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Max's room, his space is just empty. Sorry, Max. I've seen it. It's like, okay, you need something. There's nothing, really, there's no statement piece in there. Yeah. Minimalism, I think, is all about making a statement piece. Okay. Like we said, the Death Star, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It is actually pretty beautiful to look at. It is a round object with a laser on the side.
Right.
Boom.
Who doesn't?
They don't complicate it.
Who doesn't want a giant ball that shoots lasers?
When the light hits it, it looks cool. When it makes ominous shadow, it does what it's supposed to do. It reminds me, it's almost the exact opposite of one of the designs periods that I just absolutely hate. And if you're out there and if you're a big fan of the Baroque period, you can send your hate mail to me. But Brandon, what I remember, like I watched the movie Amadeus.
Yeah.
And a great movie, by the way. But like that period with the wigs and with the if they had a desk, it had to have all this frilly, detailed, little nitpicky stuff on there, and I don't like that.
It's
at all.
all pomp, no substance.
Yeah, it's because basically what you look at, you boil it down. It's like you take something pretty plain, like a rectangular desk, and they think by jazzing it up with a lot of gilded, things and a lot of frill.
Can I be completely honest? Gilding it has its place.
Yeah.
It does not belong in furniture.
I don't see very many times where it improves it. I like I said, the other one we talked about several months ago. One of my favorite constructions here on the planet Earth is the St. Louis Arch. Yeah. You talk about simplicity and something that makes a state. It goes up, it comes down, and
there's also a really good scene in Percy Jackson on that involving the arch. That if you haven't seen the new Percy Jackson series, you should check it out.
Well, we would just encourage you, if you're out there and maybe you have no interest in sci-fi or superhero movies or any of that. If nothing else, they're worth watching for what you can learn about architecture and design. Steal their good ideas. So.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to turn the corner here because we have more things to talk about. So go ahead, Max. Oh, I like this. This is good. I don't really have a working title for this, but other than
That's fine. We don't have a lot of time.
So, Brandon, I've made an observation here, and what I've noticed is that out when you look out there, we're getting more automated. Where you can put an automatic door or a remote controlled opening on just about everything these days.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be fun to consider a couple things that maybe need remote control openings.
Okay.
What do you? I have one.
Okay.
I think the first. Okay, this one's pretty good. Well, dog doors are obvious.
Dog doors are obvious. That's a given.
But I have another one. What if you had a really cool fence gate and you put a remote control opening, and maybe just every now and again you open and close it to make your neighbors think that your house is haunted or something?
Well, my neighbors already think my house is haunted, but I will say that having an automatic gate, and yes, it can be on the remote where you hit it to let your friends in and all. But there's also the ones that it's like like your backyard gate. It's like my driveway backs directly up to the gate to get into my backyard. I go into my house through the back door. It's the way we do things.
Yeah.
When I'm carrying groceries, I don't want to have to kick that gate open.
Right.
For it to just open, at the push of a button, with something that would go into your key ring like a key fob. That would be perfect for me.
Yeah, I think we need to expand our notion. I mean, adding a remote control to things is way easier than it used to be, and maybe I think that's where you start.
I also think that they belong on a workshop.
Okay.
Whether when
your arms are full,
or when you realize that your significant other has been in there working with spray paint too long and has not left the door open. So you hit it up to make sure that it's defumigated.
Okay. Well, Brandon, I don't know, man. We'll probably have to continue this conversation over on Geek Tank Radio.
Oh, I have no problem doing that.
Listen to that Sundays at 98.1 The Max. But Brandon, we're out of time. No time for pleasantries. We got to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Brandon Olmstead and Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.